Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. The title, as you can see, is a little catchy, Vitamins Are Food. The reason I did that is because as a physician, I always thought that if you ate well, or even if you didn't, you really didn't need to take supplements. I just felt like food is it. But as an Ironman triathlete, back in the early 2000s, I was training so much that I thought I should be taking something else. I was eating well, but I still thought that I should be supplementing with things like multivitamins or take extra, vitamin C or something. So, but it really wasn't until I met my wife Heidi in 2004 that I learned about a whole food supplement that was backed by a ton of research that really absolutely changed the way I viewed this entire subject. And so I was training for the Ironman World Championships. And unlike the vitamin supplements that I was taking, where I really wasn't noticing anything, after I started taking this product, I noticed some remarkable benefits in things like muscle and joint pain, or improved muscle and joint pain, improved recovery after workouts, and really just, frankly, overall improvement in my health. So this Zoom is a super brief introduction to that product and why, as a physician, I consider whole food supplementation to be so vitally important, not just for athletes, but as you'll see in this webinar, everybody in general. And really, the reason I say this is because one of the first clinical rotations I did as a medical student was in the diabetic wound clinic, where we'd go and wrap diabetic ulcers in something called an Uniboot, which is kind of a medicated boot. And basically, I spent all day just hovering over people's extremities, wrapping these ulcerations up, and realizing that in particular it was primarily type 2 diabetic that or diabetes clinic, that the wounds we just thought were sequelae, are just the result of a disease. But in reality, we're not really taught that nutrition and lifestyle can have a major impact on that disease, and in particular type 2 diabetes, which is really kind of, for the most part, for most people, is a foodborne illness. If we have been taught as medical students that if you ate right and you exercise, that perhaps you wouldn't get diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and perhaps you wouldn't end up with the sequelae of these ulcerations. So there was kind of a disconnect that's kind of inherent in the medical system right from the get-go. And I say that because really, you can see less than 1% of a medical student's education over 4 years, less than 1%, is devoted to nutrition education. So unfortunately, a lot of people turn to their physicians for information about diet and nutrition. And unfortunately, we're not, for the most part, equipped to answer those unless you've done what I've done over the last decade and spent a lot of time looking at the power of lifestyle and nutrition, its effect on chronic disease conditions. And but we all know, and it's been, we've known this for years, that the cornerstone of health when it comes to eating is putting more fruits and veggies in your body. And this is an epidemiological study that was published recently, where they found that even though the recommended 5 portions of fruits and veggies a day reduce the risk for cardiovascular disease, cancer, and all-cause mortality, what they found in this study was that the greatest benefit came from eating more, 10 portions a day. So, when it comes to overall health, putting more fruits and veggies into your body is obviously better. But the problem we face in this country, and frankly worldwide, but in this particular country, almost 3/4 of adults don't meet their minimum fruit intake, and almost 90% of adults don't even meet their minimal veggie intake. And even for those who eat well and eat lots of fruits and veggies, the problem that we're facing today is that the nutrient density, the nutrient density of the produce that we're eating today is not what it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. Even with good crop rotation, we're losing a lot of the vitamins and minerals and other nutrients that you would have in, let's say, spinach or an apple that was really powerful 15, 20, 30 years ago. It isn't as nutrient dense as it is today. And so we're not getting enough fruits and veggies in our diet. And number 2, what we're putting into our bodies is really devoid of the nutritional value it used to have many, many years ago. And so really what that sets up is the case for bridging the gap, the case for whole food supplementation, bridging the gap between what we're able to eat on a daily basis and perhaps a more optimal amount of whole food-based nutrition that provides a rich pool of antioxidants and phytonutrients into our bodies. But what I was taught, and continues to be taught a lot, not so much anymore, but what I was taught many, many years ago in med school, that the best way to bridge the nutritional gap is by taking multivitamins or isolated synthetic vitamins like vitamin C or vitamin E. But very clearly, over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, multiple large-scale studies looking at hundreds of thousands of participants and looking at whether taking isolated vitamins like vitamin C or multivitamins, whether they would indeed have an effect in maybe reducing a lot of these chronic disease conditions, cardiovascular disease and cancer. Well, a lot of those large-scale studies the data has now started to pool in, and it's telling us quite a different story. And a lot of the instances, taking these isolated vitamins have no effect in human physiology, and in some instances, they actually do more harm than good. And the kind of the proverbial nail in the coffin on this was a huge study that was just published this year. This is the largest study to date looking at vitamin supplementation and cardiovascular health. And this, as you can see, it involved 18 individual published studies, over 2 million participants. They were followed for a minimum of 12 years. And when they compiled all this data, that was their statement. You can see on the screen: taking multivitamin and mineral supplements does not prevent heart attacks, strokes, or cardiovascular death. And I can tell you right now, that's probably going to apply to cancer as well. And really, when you think about it, at least this is the way I thought, but I think a lot of people think that you eat fruits and veggies because they're healthy for you, but a lot of people attribute that to vitamins and minerals. And to be honest with you, that is just a very, very tiny percentage of the health benefits that you get from eating fruits and veggies. The true health benefits that you get from eating fruits and veggies are the plant nutrients, the phytonutrients, the things that you get from the skin and the pulp and other aspects of a fruit or veggie. And it's those phytonutrients that are really, really responsible for the beneficial effects that fruits and veggies have in human physiology. And so, we've really taken a shift away from vitamin supplementation, because today everything's vitamin fortified anyway. We really don't have isolated vitamin deficiencies. In this country, what we really have a deficiency of is whole raw food, getting more whole produce into our bodies, and it makes the case for bridging the gap with whole food supplements. And the one that I've been taking and lecturing about for over a decade now is Juice Plus. And this is what Juice Plus is. It's fruits and veggies in capsules, over 30 different fruits, veggies, and berries in capsules. And it's the rainbow of color that is really, really powerful in this product. But it's interesting because the nutritional supplement industry is like the wild, wild west, right? I mean, you see commercials on TV and on the radio and everywhere where there's all these nutritional supplements popping up on the market. In fact, this is the latest stat. You can see there's over, kind of astounding, 85,000 supplement products here in this country. It's just crazy. And the problem is that the government really doesn't have a supplement watched industry. They don't really have a supplement office that kind of oversees the industry. And it's really left up to just saying, hey, we adhere to good manufacturing practice, and basically that's just saying, hey, we're just following the minimum standards in our factories of producing nutritional supplements. But it's kind of left up to the nutritional supplement companies to regulate themselves, and that doesn't work. And then you can see I just put a couple of these just recent FDA warnings where people are buying these supplements that are laced with contaminants. And you hear athletes all the time that go to vitamin stores and they buy a supplement, they end up with contaminated urine. And that is a huge difference between all those nutritional supplements that are on the market today and Juice Plus, which is why I like it. Because Juice Plus, they have a very intimate relationship with the farmers that grow the produce, that grow the fruits and veggies. And then when the produce is harvested, it's harvested when it's peaked vine ripen, and then it's carefully preserved. And then before encapsulation, it's NSF certified, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. But again, as you can see from the middle part of the screen, it's harvested, the produce is cleaned, the whole fruit or veggie, skin, pulp, and everything is ground up and slurried, and then through a proprietary process, the water is very, very low temperature, dehydrated off, and that temperature is really important because that preserves the phytonutrients. And then you're left with the powders. That's the true health benefit of the powders, and the powders are then encapsulated. But this is the key. Juice Plus is everything you want, nothing you don't want. There's no herbicides, no pesticides, no irradiation, no banned substances, no preservatives. It's non-GMO, and it's gluten-free. And in particular, this product is NSF certified, and that basically is a third-party testing of the product where the product is removed from the encapsulation company and it's tested by a third-party institution, NSF certification, where they ensure that what is in Juice Plus is in Juice Plus, and that's fruits and veggies and not, as my wife Heidi likes to say, somebody's grass clippings from their backyard. So you're getting fruits and veggies, and then what's not in Juice Plus is not in there. Things like contaminants, steroids, stimulants, things that shouldn't be in there. So that certification is very high end, and you'll see to the right there. But it's also NSF certified for sport. That's huge for athletes, particularly Olympic athletes and professional athletes, college athletes that are constantly being tested for banned substances. This certification is necessary. This is the top certification to get to ensure that they can take Juice Plus and they're not going to end up with contaminated urine. But this is what really got me as a physician with a research background, pretty comprehensive research background, is the research done on this product. Now 23, actually going on 24 years of published research, now 38 published studies, and it's been studied in 8 countries and 4 continents around the world at institutions like King's College in London, Nemours Children's Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, MD Anderson Cancer Center has done research on Juice Plus, Vanderbilt, Yale. You know, this is an impressive list. I mean, I did my research at Duke before I went to medical school, very high-end institutions. So I know these institutions, and I know they do top quality research, and they have very high-end research institutions. And to date, the company spent well over $13 million in research. So they take a portion of their product or a portion of their investment, and they reinvest it into more research. So they're always staying on top, always staying ahead of the curve when it comes to quality research. And so what is the research found? Obviously, I don't have time to go into a lot of this tonight. I just threw up a few of these. The bioavailability supports the immune health of people, reduces oxidative stress, reduces inflammatory response. The one that I want to just take a minute to explain is the last one there, where we're talking about where Juice Plus beneficially alters the expressions of genes. And that's kind of the cutting edge of the future of medicine today. It's called nutrigenomics. So you know that we're hardwired to our DNA. We can't change our DNA, but what you can change are the switches on the outside of your DNA, the epigenetic switches that are responsible for turning that gene on or off. Lifestyle, what you eat and how you move, has a profound influence today. We found that out on flipping those switches favorably on or off. And this is the particular study that I wanted to talk about. It was just published this year, randomized controlled trial, where they actually looked at a snippet of the genome of these individuals, and they looked at the genetic analysis. And what they found in this particular study, at the end of the study, that compared to placebo, the individuals who were supplementing with Juice Plus had a reduction in lipogenesis or cholesterol production. They also had a significant reduction in inflammatory pathways. And one thing that they didn't find, but that I found in reading this paper, was also it had favorable modulation of several genes that had to do with cancer, oncogenes, tumor suppressor genes that were being turned on. That is huge, and so instead of having to take for lipogenesis, for cholesterol production, instead of having to take your Mevacor, your Crestor, to lower your cholesterol, how about turning off the genomic switch, the switch at a DNA level that can do that? Instead of having to take gobs of anti-inflammatory meds, how about turning off the epigenetic or the genomic switch that's responsible for excess inflammation? Again, are we there? No, but will we get there? I don't know. But this is really, the reason I put this up is that this company, while everybody else is playing checkers, this company is playing chess. And this is, to my knowledge, this is the first time anywhere in a controlled study that fruits and veggies and capsules has ever been shown to modulate genomic switches. So you're really working at a DNA level. And I wanted to show that to you all, because that shows you the quality and the forward thinking that this company has in research. And so these are just some of the citations to date in some of the journals that this Juice Plus has been published in. You might recognize some of these. I obviously do. Journal of the American College of Cardiology, Medicine, Science, and Sports and Exercise, Gynonc, Journal of Pediatrics. These are very high impact journals. They have high visibility in the medical community. They have very stringent rules about allowing publications or allowing studies to be published in their journals. Very, very stringent peer review board. And so that's the quality of the research and the quality of the journals that this company publishes their research in. And again, this is only a 30-minute webinar, and I don't have time to go into the other research, which I'd love to do. But if you really want to kick the tires, which is what I did, get with the person who invited you to this, because the company actually has a spiral bound notebook that contains all the citations, all the research, and you can take a look at that and really get a feel of what the quality is. And again, this is the quality of the research. Randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies tested on the product itself. Human clinical trials, not trials that are done on rats and mice and test tubes and petri dishes. And it's published in peer-reviewed journals. And I say this just because I do have a research background. In medical school, anybody who's watching this webinar, most residencies have something called a journal club, which is once a month you get together with your residency program and you're assigned a particular journal, and your job is to come back that next month and critique that particular research paper. That, don't look at the abstract, you look at the whole thing, you look at the methodology, you look at the design, you learn how to dissect a study, you look for good qualities and bad qualities. So you get very well trained as to what is a good study, what's not a good study. And you end up with a trained eye, which is why I love the quality of the research that this company has, because it is top shelf. So that's a capsule. I just want to mention a couple other products before I finish. This is a complete shake mix. This is a complete 100% vegan, plant-based protein shake mix. The primary plant protein in this is non-genetically modified, non-GMO, water-washed, or low-processed soy. It's got other plant-based proteins in there, chickpea, pea, and rice. It's got lots of good fiber. You can see the screen, gluten-free, low-fat, non-dairy, no coloring or preservatives, and it's low glycemic. And, I have to tell you that over the years, lots of people have conflicting issues around soy. And soy got a really bad rap 20, 30 years ago when animal studies showed that perhaps they would, that rats were ingested with gargantuan amounts of soy, grew thyroid tumors and breast tumors. There was never any well-designed, reputable human-based trials that ever took that study and proved it happens in humans, but they ran with it. Well, this is the most comprehensive look at soy, isoflavones, and breast cancer, because that's really the niche that most women are afraid of, is breast cancer, because it's a phytoestrogen. But this was over 6,000 participants at cancer institutions in places like Tufts and Columbia and Stanford Cancer Institute and Emory. And you can see this was just in the last year. This is the most recent update. And you can see in the quote that they came out with, we now have evidence that soy foods not only prevent breast cancer, but also benefit women who have breast cancer. Therefore, we can recommend women to consume soy foods because of the many health benefits. And again, I'm not an expert at this. I don't pretend to be, but I listen to the experts. I listen to the researchers, to the people who are most current on this particular subject, and not, healthcare providers like me who learned 20 or 30, 40, 20, 30 years ago. I'm not going to date myself that far back, but 20 or 30 years ago, where we were taught, soy's not good. And the studies, you have to keep up. You can't just sit in that bubble of what you learn at an institution like a medical school. You got to keep learning, which is I've been fortunate to be able to do over the last 10 years. And I get a lot of this, and Tim's gotten this from his athletes. A lot of athletes think that, the complete shake mix, because it's plant-based, is kind of a frou-frou, plant-based, that you can't build muscle and be healthy, compared to like the whey and the dairy-based, which are very, very toxic. I don't have time to go into the toxicity of those. But the same amino acid profile that you find in the whey and the casein, the dairy-based ones, is the same amino acid profile that you get in the complete shake mix. The three that I've highlighted here, the branched chain amino acids, isoleucine, leucine, and valine, are the three most prominent and important branched chain amino acids that are necessary to build muscle. And they're all in the complete shake mix. So there's, again, a lot of locker room mentality, a lot of mythology, not based on science, okay, not based on science. And so it can be a tough one to get around with athletes sometimes, and certainly Tim knows that as well. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the company just rolled this out 2 years ago. This actually is a completely plant-based omega supplement. Got an international rollout a couple of years ago, as I said. And most of the omegas on the market today derive their polyunsaturated fatty acids, or omega-3s in particular, from fish or krill. But the fish or krill actually have to eat algae in order to make that conversion in their body. So this company is like, we'll skip the fish, we'll go straight to the source. So they harvest a large amount of their omegas, particularly omega-3s, from algae, but they round out the rest of the omegas, 5, 6, 7, and 9, by obtaining the oils from cold pressed seeds. As you can see, pomegranate seed, safflower seed, buckthorn, raspberry, and tomato. And that rounds out that whole spectrum of omegas. And each of those omegas has a specific beneficial role in human physiology by improving cognitive function, improving cardiovascular health, improving healthy skin and gums, decreasing inflammation. And you have to, this is a very powerful anti-inflammatory product. And you have to remember that the omegas basically follow the same anti-inflammatory pathway as the non-steroidals like Advil and Aleve, but you don't have the GI side effects. Okay, you get all the health benefits without the GI side effects. So there will be research coming down on this down the road as well. And we're really, really excited about that. So this is the product line. Not a lot here, right? This is, I like to say this company goes an inch wide in product line, but they go a mile deep in quality and research. And that's why I particularly like. So they've got the capsules, the Omega blend. We talked about the complete shake mix. There's also chewables for kids and adults, the complete bars for snack in this awesome Tower Garden. We just launched ours outside in Phoenix here, where you can grow your own produce. That's it. 5, 6 products, but 100% dedication to quality and research. That's where my heart is as a physician. And so, I speak to a lot of doctors. This is just a handful, some of the healthcare providers in our company to date, and very, very small. We've got thousands of healthcare providers around the world that recommend Juice Plus in their practice and to their patients. 2 particular notables I've highlighted in red: Dr. Bill Sears, who is America's pediatrician. He's been all over TV, very, very famous guy, super great guy. Been a part of our company for years, loves Juice Plus and its products. I think he's published over 40 books. And then Dr. David Katz on that bottom row there. He is out of Yale Preventative School of Medicine. Very well, very intelligent guy, super intelligent, very well read, very well published. Again, a huge backer of Juice Plus because of the research, because of what it confers, the health benefits to human physiology. So that's kind of brief. I know that covered as much as I can in about 25 to 30 minutes. I would invite you to kick the tires, do what I did. And that's what it is, a physician. There are a lot of products out there. We've already talked about that. And it can be very, very confusing. But I'm not here to sell you anything or whatever. I'm just kind of here to educate you on what I have learned over 10 years of studying voraciously on this subject, and realizing that Juice Plus is really, you can think of it as a catalyst. It's not a substitute for eating fruits and veggies, right? But it is certainly a catalyst that can help get more of those nutrients into your body. And so I just want to share with you what I know as a physician and what I wasn't taught in medical school, but what I think is extremely powerful for human physiology. So please kick the tires, I invite you to, and ask lots of questions, because we're here for that. And so, again, I'd like to thank you for